Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing Anno 117 Pax Romana in the GeForce RTX 5090. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. I'm running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups GPU-Z, and over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Let's get into it, shall we? Also, thanks to Ubisoft for providing a key for me to test this game. If you are interested in more videos in it, let me know, and let me know what kind of GPU you'd like me to test. Now, let's go over the settings. I am playing at 4K resolution right here with the 5090, of course, on the ultra-high settings preset, which sets everything to the maximum right here, including ray tracing. Yeah, this game has some ray tracing settings here, as you can see. The medium and low only use global illumination RT, and the high setting here has that global illumination plus ray traced reflections. I will, of course, set that to the maximum. We got a 5090 after all. And on the upscaling, I'm setting it to DLSS DLAA, so it's still 100% resolution scale here, and the transformer model as well. Now, as I am a complete noob at this game, I'm gonna be running the benchmark run over here, and then I'll show you some actual gameplay, but it's going to be very early on, of course, not gonna be a huge city like this. And as you can see, the 1% lows here are extremely low. That's really unfortunate. It only seems to happen in the benchmark run, but it could be because this is a huge city, once again. From what I've tested in the actual gameplay, it didn't have a single stutter, but again, I didn't build anything, so I was just looking at the barren world without any buildings on it. Oof, look at this scene over here, tons of little frame time spikes as well, and this is actually the second time that I'm running the built-in benchmark of this game. So those really annoying stutters that we keep seeing here are here to stay. It's not a matter of, wow, we loaded the game for the first time and it's now stuttering, and the second time around it will be good. Not really, all right? This is the second time. It's actually the third time that I'm running this, so there's that. I even reinstalled the drivers. I installed the game on another SSD, a faster SSD, the 990 Pro from Samsung, and it still has these weird frame time issues. Now, it doesn't happen in every scene of the benchmark run. As you can see right here, this is a lot more stable, but it seems like the bigger the city is and the farther away that we're seeing it from above, the more it will stutter, you know? And I'm not sure if this happened as well in other Anno games. Again, this is the first time that I'm playing one. Now, by the end of this, as you can see in these new scenes, it's not stuttery. The frame time is really flat, and that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, look at this scene over here as well with the grass. It looks really beautiful. Like, in terms of graphical fidelity, the game looks gorgeous. In terms of like popping at the distance on ultra high settings, it's really good as well, although I can see a little bit of it, of course. But for example, you can see a fisherman right there. That's pretty crazy, actually. Yeah, also the FPS, however, I mean, 55 FPS on a 5090 is really low, and we're 100% GPU bound here as well. It says below the on-screen display as well, GPU bound 100%, 99% GPU utilization as well. So it's not a CPU bottleneck, and I don't think if you have another CPU with more core count, it will be better at rendering the game without stuttering, because well, it's using like 15 to 30% of our 9800X 3D there, so it doesn't really utilize a lot of cores and threads, which could be a little bit of an optimization problem. But I mean, if we can get higher FPS later on, who cares really about the low CPU utilization, right? And here we have the final benchmark results. So we got the game logic results down here. Here it says that if this drops below 10, the gameplay or multiplayer can be affected. We got 11 there, so that should be good, I guess. And this is 5% of simulation steps were faster than this. I honestly don't know what that means. But on the scores, these are the scores that we got. 14,000 here, 21,000 on the CPU score as well. We got IO score, final score. So if you want to compare this to your own systems when this game came out, well, this is what I got with my system. It says Windows 10 Pro, by the way, but this is not Windows 10. This is clearly Windows 11. And then on the render results, we got 57 FPS average. The FPS fifth means that 5% of frames were faster than 75 FPS. All right. Then the FPS 95th means that 95%, I mean, you can read it there, right? So 95% of the time, I guess you'll get more than 48 frames per second. And we got 98% GPU bound over there. So pretty meh results, honestly, but considering we got ray tracing enabled and everything and maximum settings in-game, it's nothing that we haven't seen before, right? For example, Borderlands 4 runs worse than this. Now, I've hit continue in the game here, so I'm playing the game at this point. So this is more intensive already than the benchmark run for some reason. And we just started. We haven't built a single thing. Look at that, dropping into the 30s. So this is actually concerning. Dropping into the 30s, even if we have ray tracing enabled and everything, I consider that to be pretty bad on an RTX 5090. Obviously, we can utilize DLSS, and it's the transformer model in this game, so it should look really good at 4K. Like if you use DLSS performance at 4K, it should look similar to native 4K with DLAA, 100% resolution scale, you know, and you'll get a lot higher FPS, but still, I don't like to see this, but again, it could just be because of the ray tracing. Now, in terms of smoothness and stability, I think since we're not seeing a ton of houses in the big city and so on, it's actually pretty stable. The frame time doesn't really move that much. If we start counting the FPS, the 1% lows should be better than what we saw inside of the built-in benchmark of the game. And I mean, it's not having those little spikes anymore, so it's not stuttering at all. Now, I want to try and disable ray tracing so we can see how much of a gain we can have in terms of FPS. It applies the changes without restarting, apparently, so we don't need to restart. It takes a really long time, though. Okay, finally. That's about like a minute just to apply the settings. But again, at least you don't need to restart and everything is fully applied. So now we're running the game without the ray tracing enabled. It seems like we gained a lot of FPS, right? Instead of getting down into the 30s, we're now getting down into the 40s. That's actually not a big gain. Like from up there, it looked like it was, see that, like 70s and so on. That's quite good of a gain, but then you get very close to the forest again, and it drops into the 40s still. So you gain about 7 FPS or so. So we got our citizens there working. Look at that. There's a ton of detail once again in this game. The graphics are really good. Like, it kind of looks like Assassin's Creed Shadows in a way. Oh, there are dolphins on the water as well. Look at this. Oh, that's so cool. See, it has a really big amount of detail, so of course it's going to be really intensive of a game. And in terms of visuals, by the way, I'm not really seeing a big difference comparing ray tracing on versus ray tracing off. Kind of looks the same to me. But let's try running the benchmark run again and see if the stuttering gets a bit better now that we're not running ray tracing. In some cases, in some games, it does make a huge difference, but no, look at this. It's still having pretty much the same frame time issues, so that's not related to ray tracing. Man. What is it related to then? I don't know. Should we try like lowest settings possible, guys? To see if that gets better in terms of the stuttering? I think that's next thing to do, right? I want to diagnose this a little bit and try to find out what's causing such poor stability inside of the benchmark run. Again, inside of the game itself, it's fine. But the benchmark run is completely broken in terms of stability. And I worry that when you have a huge city, it will run like that. So we got the low settings going on at the moment. It's not the lowest setting though. Yeah, I will make sure to lower everything down to the absolute lowest. So now it is the absolute lowest, okay? And we're still with DLAA. Actually, let's disable the upscaling as well. Well, let's use DAA. First of all, let's see how much of a gain we see inside of the gameplay itself. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, so now this is a really fast, high refresh rate experience. Granted, the sun is not out anymore, but it will be in just a little bit, I guess. And we can still see the trees and vegetation. Sounds are nice as well. You can hear tons of insects and crickets and wolves. Very interesting. It's kind of soothing as well. And seeing things from above, it jumps up to like 180s, 200 frames per second. That's pretty good. That means that CPU is handling it pretty well as well. And with that low CPU utilization, older CPUs or low core count CPUs should have no problem running this. Actually, the requirements for this game are surprisingly low. Just take a look at them right now. But yeah, it doesn't ask for a lot in terms of the requirements, which make me think that the game is actually pretty well optimized, especially after seeing such high FPS on low settings. Can we go down from here? I want to try it at like 1080p resolution. So here we have 1080p resolution, and we're still GPU bound on low settings with a 5090. You don't see this very often in a lot of games, although sometimes there is a bit of fluctuation to like 95, 93% GPU usage. So I guess we're seeing maybe slightly the limits of the 9800X3D in this particular title. If we go down from here, maybe utilize DLSS Ultra Performance, which will render the game at 360p. Let's see. No, it's still pretty much the same. So I guess what we should do is go down to 1024 by 768 resolution, the lowest possible res in this game. Let's see if it's CPU bound then. Okay, yes it is. So 85%, but now it's back to 98% at times. But sometimes, yeah, 73%, so close to 500 FPS is the limit of the 9800X3D with an empty world. Of course, this will vary a lot with what you have on screen. So what I want to do next is run that built-in benchmark with 1024 by 768 resolution and DLSS Ultra Performance, which means it's 33% of this resolution, actually. Okay, so here we go. Still loading a few things here at the beginning, so that's why we get a few stutters. And now it's where we saw those huge spikes. Oh, yep, it still happens. So it's not settings dependent. I guess maybe it's just the benchmark rendering things for the first time, and it needs to do that every single time you run the benchmark. But that's so weird. A benchmark should be very stable, actually. And here we can actually see the CPU bottleneck in place. If you have a huge city, the 9800X3D can do about 80 to 90 frames per second, which is not half bad, honestly. Like, that's still good enough to max out the 5090 if you play at 4K max settings, of course, as we saw previously. We got 100% GPU utilization. And again, with the amount of detail in the world, the amount of NPCs doing things here and there, and the buildings and everything, the simulation of it must be super CPU intensive, right? So it doesn't really surprise me to see these values on a 9800X3D. This is not benchmarking the 5090 anymore, by the way. The GPU is obviously at 20% usage, so it could do a much better job than this if we had a faster CPU, but I guess for now, that's not possible. We're seeing the limits of the CPU right now. Now, I know this is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody's going to play at 1024 by 768 with DLSS Ultra Performance, lowest settings on a PC like this. Again, this is just to see that CPU bottleneck in action, and this is on low settings. Let's see it on maximum settings with the same Ultra Performance DLSS and the same resolution as well. So now we got everything maxed out, high ray tracing as well, and I'm really curious here. This might make the 9800X3D drop from 60 FPS. Okay, not really. All right, this is good. So GPU usage, Jesus Christ. Dude, we are well below like 300p resolution at this point. And the 5090 is still 70-ish%, 50% utilized sometimes. That's actually crazy with 100 FPS. Like the res is extremely low. But I'm surprised to see that the CPU is delivering pretty much the same FPS, if not higher. Like, what happened there? Okay, now in this scene, we're down to the 80 to 90 FPS range, which is what we saw on low settings. So it seems like no matter what settings you choose in terms of CPU performance, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. You can run maximum settings. It's not going to affect your CPU performance in this game. I mean, again, I'm not mad about this. It's not great performance, of course. It's a 9800X3D. but at the same time, it's a huge simulation of a big city. Like, a lot of stuff is happening, so of course that's going to be taxing on the CPU. Alright, enough of unrealistic settings. Let's go back to 4K resolution. We're gonna scroll this all the way up. Here we go. And I'm gonna do like quality DLSS. It says max quality, but it's just quality DLSS on the ultra high settings still. Yeah, let's keep the ultra high settings with the max quality DLSS and see how it does. Also, from what I've seen, the game doesn't have frame generation. I think that would work very well with this type of game, you know, because you don't really need very fast reactions. You don't really aim at anything, for example. So the input lag wouldn't matter as much. And of course, in terms of FPS and smoothness, it would be much better. Now, DLSS quality here seems to be making it play above 60 FPS pretty much at all times. We're getting 90 over here in this new scene as well. It's pretty good, actually. Not bad, obviously. Well, I could start counting the 1% lows, but they would be completely wrecked because of that first scene, which is terrible in terms of 1% lows. And this one as well, like, look at that. 20-something FPS, 1% lows. That's kind of ridiculous, and it only happens in the benchmark run again, at least for now. I don't have a big city in the normal gameplay. It doesn't drop from 60 FPS. You can have 60 plus right now. This is basically 4K in terms of visuals as well. There's no difference whatsoever. Even in far away trees like over there, it looks really sharp. Zero shimmering anywhere. It's basically 4K. Again, I can't really tell the difference between DLSS 4 on quality and DLAA with the transformer model in the vast majority of games, and this is no exception here. So if you want good performance, or acceptable performance at least, on the 5090, 60 plus FPS all of the time with that ray tracing goodness and every setting maxed out here in this title, this is the way to go. Just apply some DLSS. All right, and of course, beautiful. Look at that, FPS 95th. Oh man, we got 69 there. Oh boy. GPU bound only 88%, so enabling that DLSS quality makes it CPU bound in a few areas, alright? And it makes a lot of sense because when we dropped it down to 1024x768 with DLSS ultra performance at low settings, or the highest settings, it was basically the same, we saw around 80 to 90 FPS. And over here, we also hit 80 to 90 FPS very often. And that's where that CPU bottleneck comes from, basically. FPS 5th, we got 122, average 86.2, that's pretty playable, obviously. Like 1% lows would probably be 60. This is pretty good, aside from the stutters, of course. And down here in the logic update 95th, we still got 11, so that's good. Anyway, let's try it out with these settings now and inside of the actual game to see worst case scenario, basically, in terms of GPU boundness. And look at that. It actually does dip down into the 50s. And low 50s at times, damn. That is a bit disappointing with DLSS quality. With DLSS quality, I'd expect like 70 plus 100% of the time, or at least 60 plus, but it still does drop. Obviously, it's still playable in a game like this. Even like 40 plus FPS is very decent. Let's see it on balance, though. In the built-in benchmark, we didn't drop from 60 FPS, remember that. But here, in this initial part of the game, we are dropping from 60 FPS. Even with balanced DLSS, it dipped down to the 50s. Yeah, 59 right there. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's barely noticeable that it's dropping due to the gameplay of this game, right? It's definitely doable and suitable, and a lot of people have been playing like City Skylines 2, for example, with 20 FPS, and they're fine with it. So this is more than fine, obviously. But let's do performance DLSS and see if we can finally reach that 60 plus FPS experience all of the time. And indeed, I think we've done it. 61. I'm trying to position the camera here inside of the biggest amount of trees that I can. But I think this time around, it's not going to drop from 60 FPS anymore. 62, 64. So performance DLSS is what it takes on maximum settings plus ray tracing for this GPU to achieve 60 plus. Which is not great for a 5090 again. And if you're interested in the built-in benchmark with performance DLSS enabled, here we go, guys. We're getting severely GPU bound, as you can see. That GPU usage keeps dropping. It's probably because of the stuttering, though. Yeah. So we can't even see accurate results because of those stutters. I'm not sure if I will try this game again. Maybe I'll wait for it to release in a few days and see if there's like a patch to improve the performance of the built-in benchmark or something. As you can see over here, we get down into the 70% range in terms of GPU utilization with the same values as before in terms of FPS. Same as 1024 by 768. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing in terms of FPS as DLSS quality and max settings were with the 5090, and that's because the built-in benchmark of the game doesn't really show the true 1% lows that you will experience while playing it, because it shows built cities basically, and whenever you have the most grass on screen, the most vegetation with trees and so on, is where it's going to drop the most in GPU bound scenarios at least. Granted, most people will likely be CPU bound in this game though, so this is better to see like actual PC performance. But in terms of this system, yeah, the built-in benchmark could have probably featured a little bit of vegetation as well. It wouldn't really hurt it, so it would be nice to see it added to it. If we try it out like 1440p resolution or 1080p resolution with DLAA, it would get pretty much the same performance as we're seeing right now with performance DLSS at 4K, because the internal resolution right now is 1080p, being upscaled to 4K, of course. And we are GPU bound sometimes, but we're CPU bound most of the time at around 80 to 90 frames per second. So that's what we would see at those lower resolutions, of course. And finally, we got the final benchmark results here. We got 73 FPS on the 95th percentile, which was basically the same as previously, I think. We got 69, not that big of a difference. GPU bound 73%, so we were more CPU bound, of course, with performance DLSS. I like this metric over here, actually. And in terms of FPS average, we got 103.4. So a little bit of an uplift there, but it was already very good for a type of game previously. Even on DLAA, it's very playable, right? With 50-ish FPS or 40-ish FPS. So, yeah, I hope to see, like, frame generation being introduced in this game, because as of now, as you can see, there is no option for it, and I think it would work really well with this. I think it would be super nice to test out a lower-end system in this one, given how intensive on the CPU side of things this game is. So I might actually do that, but I don't know. If you guys don't want to watch this type of content, well, I won't really make more of it. But I'm curious, so I might actually do it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.